It is Thursday, October 16th in the Lord's year 2025, and it's your home for rock and roll on YouTube, the Thirsty Deer Studio. And if you saw the thumbnail today, the question is music now just content? Are people making music not for the sake of making music, but just to get eyes on the channel, whatever they're doing other than music? It's a valid question, and it's something I think a lot of us go over in our minds. And I saw actually an interesting video yesterday on Rick Beato's channel with Justin from The Darkness. Justin Rides Again is the channel. And, you know, it was a question that Rick threw at Justin, and Justin said, you know, I hope not. It's definitely not what I'm doing, you know, but it does feel like that people are doing everything for clicks and for, you know, just to get eyes on their channel and whatever other motives they have going on. You see a lot of people on YouTube that do demos or other things, but you can't really figure out what their role is actually in music. You don't hear them doing any other music. Maybe they'll do a demo of a product and make a little tune for it, but you don't see them releasing music. And it's like, I think it's a sign that art is losing its importance for a lot of people. And it's, you know, for this channel, if you're watching this channel, a lot of the videos I put out are just songs or working on songs that we're making to be released. And it's what all this gear is about. It's why I'm on here, and it's the most important thing. You know, if we think back to older days, and let me also say right at the jump, if you're new to the channel, this is the type of thing we talk about. I'm getting ready to get into the music news here in a minute, and we're going to go over some important things that happen in rock and roll and in music in general on October 16th historically. I've got some things to talk about there. I just got a lot of stuff to talk about with music because that's what I love to do. And I do see a lot of this content that's, you know, not really about music. Like, I see some channels that have beefs with people, like beefs with Joe Bonamassa. And it's like, man, what are you doing? You know, I don't understand it. But hopefully we get some people on the stream today. I do this shit regardless because I make music. I want my music out there, whether anybody hears it or not. It's what I'm doing, and I feel like I have something to say musically. And it comes out in lyrics, it comes out in the guitar playing, it comes out in a lot of ways. But where I was going with this when I mentioned to subscribe, and also if you're in the live stream, get in the chat, say something to me in the chat. I'll answer any questions you have. We can talk about anything. Tell me how you like to work in your studio. Tell me how you like to listen to music. Do you still buy vinyl or CDs or tapes? Or do you stream everything? You know, that's another thing about a lot of this stuff is linked to our shortened attention spans. You know, do people even give enough of a shit about music to sit down and listen to an album? And it seems like in a lot of cases that answer is no. You know, people will get in the car and listen to 30 seconds of a song or the part they want to hear and switch to another song and do the same thing over and over. And it's like albums have something to say as a whole piece of work. You know, a full, long, extended piece of work, not just one song in that project. And it's just, I think it's sad. And, you know, there used to be a lot of bands like Pink Floyd, and more recently, bands like Tool. I saw Tool the first 2 times in 2001, and then I've seen them since. But the first 2 times I saw them was 2001, the Lateralis tour. And I really didn't know what the guys from Tool looked like. Even after I saw them, I still didn't really know what Maynard looked like. You know, there'd be maybe one magazine that I could find that had them in it, but it was still like they were wearing crazy clothes, like in costumes. Maynard had paint on. You know, you couldn't tell what these guys looked like, and it was same with Pink Floyd. None of that Pink Floyd album covers had them on the cover. You didn't know what Pink Floyd looked like if you were just a music consumer back in the day. And, you know, wait just a second. I forgot to turn the air conditioning off, and it's going to really sound bad in the mic, so I just went and did that. I left work early today. I have an appointment later today. But I like to do these live streams at different times, try and get different people interested in the channel and interested in what we're doing here. So I like to hit different times if I can. And it just opened up today where I could do a live stream because I had an appointment. I have to be off work anyway. So it's nice to be out of work and talking about music, which is what I love to do. So like I said before, if you're new to the channel, get in the chat, leave me a comment, hit subscribe, hit the like button. Let's get these videos out there, man, because I know if you're watching this or if this appears in your feed that you're probably into music, you know. And let me show you my cat here. This is Chester. He's going to be climbing all over the gear. I usually put him up before the live streams because he's loves attention and he tends to get in stuff. He's still got his claws, so he can tear stuff up pretty good. But he was over climbing on the rack over there, and I figured I'd grab him. He can be part of the live stream too. So, you know, let's get into this music news, but just let me know what you think about where music's at. Are people just doing it for clicks? And are you like watching a lot of these music channels and never hear no music? Because before we get into the news and the historical stuff that happened on this day in history, another thing we do is a lot of music production stuff on this channel. If you've seen any of the recent live streams, I've been working on a song, actually recording stuff in the DAW on the live streams and mixing, doing some things. And I have a good rough mix of this song. It's everything but the vocal. I've been writing vocals for the song this week, so the vocals are about to get recorded. We're trying out some different ideas on vocals, but let me play you some music so you can hear what we've been working on the live streams. Maybe you're new to the live stream, and if you catch this later, still leave me a comment in the comment section. I always turn on the chat, so you should get a chat replay if you're watching later. I keep looking down here to see what the cat's doing. But yeah, man, let's listen to this song. Right now, it doesn't have a title. It's just called Rat Music because the first riff of the song was done with the rat pedal. And it's, you know, we get these like working titles, just something so we can see the file, you know. And I've got some lyrical ideas. It might look a little different on this live stream because it's daytime. I don't have my key light on because the lighting's pretty good in here, I hope. Let me know how the lighting is on the channel, on the live stream, on the pod. Be a friend of the pod and get in that chat, man. Let's talk. But let's listen to this music. I'm going to play that for you to get things rolling so you can hear where I'm at, that I'm not on bullshit about this music thing. I make music. That's what it's all about. And anything that I do, like a live stream or my long form videos, it's really just an extension of the music and trying to get the music heard, man, because I think we get some interesting sounds in here. I've got great gear, not a whole, you know, not like a big studio, but I have some great mic preamps, great ways to record, great amplifiers. Those are Ludwig Super Classic drums, some of the best drums you can get, you know, and we get good sounds in here, so let's listen to some of them. sounds great. Like that. It took me some time getting that rough mix. I had some little glitches and pops and things going on that really took me some time to get under control. Chester, quit. He likes to try and tear up the couch. Am I gonna have to put you up? I've got this for him, and he knows this. He's scared of the air duster. When he gets his claws out and starts trying to tear up the couch, we get out the air duster. But, so it's going to be really fun to put vocals on, because I've got something to say with this one. Always do, or I wouldn't make these songs. I'll also roll out with one of my older songs. We just put the latest one out probably getting close to a month ago. Got this new project going. That's about my speed of how quickly I work. I usually get something out, about once a month on average. So those drums sound huge. I don't use any samples as far as drum replacement or drum augmentation. It's all those drums and all those microphones you see over there. I use some, I use a Shure Beta 52 on the kick, usually just inside the kick. I use an Audix either on the crotch mic or put it on rack toms. In between the two rack toms. I use this mic, which is United Studio Technology Twin 87, a great sounding mic. I just actually watched a demo video comparing this and a few other mics to an actual U87. This mic sounded great in that, like I knew it would. I think it sounds very close to a Neumann. We've got Royer R10 up on the other side overhead, and I've got them actually covered, but there's some room mics over here. Let's get the camera to follow me. Here's room mics right here on this stand. We use those. Those are small diaphragm condensers. We've got some cheap mics in the studio. Those are AKG P170s. They sound great. They're pretty budget. You can get a pair for $200 or less. This mic's around $700, I think. The Royer R10's about the same price. Royer has a new mic out, R12. It's basically like that, but with a pad on it and probably a high pass filter, and it actually has a cloud lifter type of. I think they're things called a D booster, but it's actually built into the mic. That's a really cool mic. I want to add another ribbon to the studio. We just talked about music production, and I've got some music news I want to talk about because some interesting things are happening. I've got extension cords sticking out everywhere. I try and do a little bit of cable management, but everything's moving around. I'll put different mics on stuff to get different sounds, and I don't worry about the cables too much. This is a studio. I watch a lot of YouTube videos where they're more concerned about the cable management than the music. Not to knock anybody, because it's all about what gets you off and what you're into. But we make music here, man. That's the number one priority. And so I figured if we could get some people in the chat talking about this, that it's obvious that people care about music, but, the people that are actually doing the music type of content aren't focusing on the music. I want to see one channel that does, I think, very well is Produce Like a Pro. They're always making music or doing recreations of songs. And it's not an effort to sell gear, it's an effort to teach people how to mix or teach people how to record, and that's a good thing, something we need more of. But everything I do here, not every project goes up on the streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, all those places, but I try, the effort is going into all these songs that I write, is to have it come out and be something that people can go listen to in the car and, check out. So, and hopefully it's, stands the test of time. Who knows what's going to happen with streaming. And that's the first piece of music news that we've got today. The CEO of Spotify, his name is Daniel Ek, and he's been kind of controversial lately about what he does with his money, and he's always been controversial about how he pays artists because, I've put out 11 songs, and I posted a thing the other day where I've made, since the beginning of 2024, $17.10 off of 11 songs. So, if that tells you anything, that's Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music. I put all my music out through DistroKid. It's really easy. It doesn't cost a lot to do it. You can get the basic artist thing for probably, it's less than 50 a month, probably about 30 a month, or 30 a year, I'm sorry. And you can put out unlimited releases under, one artist, unlimited releases. But there's a lot of stuff you can add on that I want to upgrade my plan to where I can, if something comes up later, you can do things like change your mix, stuff like that. Like, I just changed an album cover recently. You can do that on the basic artist plan. But Daniel Ek, I think that's how you say it. It's just EK. So Ek, I guess. Spotify's CEO is stepping down. He's still going to be on the board. Still be in the mix somewhat, but he's getting replaced by two CEOs. And this by itself is pretty newsworthy, but there's been also in the news, along with this story, Spotify, including those two new CEOs, and Sony Music Group, Universal, and Warner, have all agreed that, for what it's worth, we'll see what happens with it, but they're all developing artist-first AI music products, is what they're calling this, right? So, my impression of it, they haven't really got in depth about what that means, actually, because it's kind of a contradiction in a sentence, like artist first AI. Okay, what do you mean there? But if you know anything about mixing and recording, things like this, things like we do on this channel, subscribe. You'll know about things like Isotope, and different AI tools that we use in mixing to make things, to fix problems. Or there's certain AI tools that do track separation. So if you want to feature a song on your YouTube channel and feature certain sections of the song, like say you wanted to do Led Zeppelin, whatever, When the Levee Breaks, or I was trying to think of Good Times, Bad Times was what I was trying to think of, because I love that one. If you want to break down Good Times, Bad Times, you can throw that song, you can buy it off Apple Music, put the MP3 in some AI software, or now a lot in the DAW you can do it. Ableton has a new feature in the new issue of Ableton, the new revision of Ableton. You can put a track into the DAW, and it will separate it into stems, basically. And you can solo up those stems, so that song comes in with the cowbell, and then John Bonham's drums, and then the guitars and the vocals, and bass comes in. Everybody comes in, and you can separate those out so you hear one instrument at a time. You can hear exactly what John Bonham's doing on the drums, what Jimmy Page is doing on the guitar, John Paul Jones on bass, and Robert Plant. And it's really cool. And hopefully, this isn't just lip service, that they're paying to actually putting artists first, and making AI tools that we can use. What they need to do in addition is agree to not let any AI music be used on their platforms, in my opinion. Because, people will start, if something becomes normal, people just adapt to it. And that's not what we want. There's no artistry in music created by AI. They make the AI go slow. Like, you'll put in the prompts into the AI, ChatGPT, or whatever you use to make music. I don't use a whole lot of AI. I do some stuff on my video editing that's AI, and sometimes I'll ask a question on the Google AI thing. But I don't use AI really in my music production much, because I think that's kind of sacred ground where the artist should be doing what the artist does. And I think mistakes are good things in music. and oftentimes the most interesting things. But there's another app, that kind of, it's called Soundful. I've never really used it, but it's royalty-free background music that you can put in your YouTube videos. So if you're a music channel and you don't necessarily have time to write your music for a video that you want to get out very quickly, you can use this royalty-free app called Soundful. This is like the type of thing that I think they have in mind when they say put artists first with AI, right? Artists first, AI music products. So we'll see how that goes. I feel like, even with the Soundful, if you're a music channel or an engineering and music production channel, that you should be making your own sounds, or using samples very creatively. There's ways to use samples. I said I don't use any samples on my drums, which is very true, but I do use some keyboard samples, synth samples and things like this, and put them in my music. I have a MIDI keyboard here. I also have an analog synthesizer, a Poly D from Behringer. I'm tending to use that more lately. Just it's newer. I like the sounds. It's basically a mini Moog, a budget mini Moog from Behringer, but it sounds great and it puts interesting flavors and pads in the music. So there's ways to use things that aren't your own creation, like samples, creatively. But with AI, it's very much cheating, in my opinion, or not being an artist, not being creative. I do these YouTube videos, I do the long form videos. It's been a while since I put out a regular long form video. I did an edited regular video for my last song release, but I've been doing these live streams now for over a month, and I've been doing 3 a week, and it's like I make these shorts off of these videos, and they've been doing really well lately. Yesterday, I do these things to test the algorithm sometimes. So yesterday, I put out 3 shorts, all about an hour apart, and they progressively got less, YouTube suggested them less and less each time, but you can see the cat rolling in the background. He's crazy. He's a kitten still, and he's just wild, man. It's the first time I haven't had a declawed cat in a while, and he's wrecking havoc on this house, man, if I don't watch him. That's why I got the duster. He's scared of the duster. But let's get into let's talk about some of the things that happened on October 16th, 2025, or on October 16th, historically throughout the years. Starting with, in 1951, Richard Penniman made his first recordings for RCA Camden in a studio in Atlanta called WGST, a radio station. That was the studio Richard Penniman recorded in. You probably know, if you know anything about music, rock and roll, where it comes from. Richard Penniman is Little Richard. And you can probably safely say that those were some of the first rock and roll recordings. Maybe the first rock and roll records. So it changed everything that came after it, right? So very important day if you look at it from that respect, that music completely changed after Little Richard made his records on October 16th, 1951. Then the next little piece of information that we have here, I was just looking at something here. The next historic music-related rock and roll kick-ass band music event that happened in 1966. Grace Slick from the Jefferson Airplane. She wasn't yet in the Jefferson Airplane, but she became a member of the Jefferson Airplane in 1966 on October 16th when she replaced Signe Anderson. And Signe Anderson was pregnant. She was the lead singer. The other lead singer's name is on the tip of my tongue. I should have research that, but there was two lead singers in Jefferson Airplane, a male and a female. Signe was the first one, but the Jefferson Airplane that you know is Grace Slick. Songs like Somebody to Love, White Rabbit. Later on, they became Jefferson Starship in the 80s. Like, we built this city on rock and roll. That kind of music. But it was very much acid rock in the 60s, in the middle and late 60s. They performed at Woodstock. Grace was a hottie back in the day. Very beautiful girl. Crazy. Everything you think a rock and roll chick from the 60s should be. And then just 2 years later in 1968, on October 16th, Jimi Hendrix released Electric Ladyland, a great classic record. Hendrix, of course, like a few of these other historic things that happened on October 16th, Hendrix changed everything that came after. He did things with the instrument that people didn't know could be done with guitar. Like, when he played Woodstock, when he played the national anthem at Woodstock, he put Vietnam in that guitar. And Hendrix is, for my money, the greatest guitar player that ever lived. I know a lot of people on the YouTube love Eddie Van Halen. I love Eddie Van Halen, but Hendrix was just completely from outer space. Hendrix was an alien. And if you're catching this video on a replay, get in the comments, leave me a comment, tell me what you think about Jimi Hendrix, because it seems like Jimmy that either people love or hate Jimmy, and they just not hate, but they don't understand the music. They think he's sloppy or what. I don't know what they think, but Hendrix changed everything. And, a lot of the sounds that people use now are Hendrix sounds, whether it's octave fuzz or wah-wah or univibe. A lot of those things were made for Jimi Hendrix, like the Octava pedal. See, everything's going to be on the tip of my tongue, but, Jimmy was working very close with the engineer that made all these effects for him. Why is that going to be on top of my tongue, man? Oh, well. And then we skip a few years. We jump into the 1980s. And October 16th, 1986, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, a few other well-known British rock stars, I think, were there too. I've seen the damn thing. The Chuck Berry concert where, Keith and Chuck get into it. So they rehearsed for a while. All this is on, recorded on video. You can watch it. Look up Chuck Berry's birthday concert. And Keith Richards got all these artists together, got a great band. I think it was Steve Jordan on drums. Got a great band together for Chuck to, play a show in St. Louis, like a one-off show, because at that time and for a long time, Chuck Berry would just show up at a gig, wherever it was, and he would tell the club owner or wherever he was playing to have a band there, and he just played with a house band. He brought his guitar, usually drove up in a Cadillac, got out with his guitar, and started playing with the band. Maybe it was people that barely knew how to play music, but, who's to say who these club owners got? I'm sure they didn't put out a lot of money for Chuck Berry's backing band. People just wanted to see Chuck, and the club owners just wanted to get by cheap. So Keith put together an all-star band for Chuck Berry, and they rehearsed for probably a week, maybe a couple weeks. I don't think they rehearsed too long because Chuck wouldn't stand for it probably, but Keith had this band tight. Eric Clapton was there, some other artists that I didn't write down, and they played Chuck Berry's hits, and they rehearsed them for a week, and then Chuck changed everything. He changed the keys of the songs. He changed the order in which they played them. He did things different. Like he was practicing playing lead on a part, and then he would play rhythm in the show. And he just changed everything, switched everything up, kind of like in an effort to sabotage the thing. It's like just because he can, because he's Chuck Berry. And Keith and Chuck had some pretty epic arguments. Keith said that Chuck Berry is the only person that's ever hit him, and he didn't hit him back. It's a pretty good video. Everybody's, in tux is for Chuck, and you've probably seen highlights of it before if you're into music. Then in 1991, when music was all changing again, that's the great thing about music, man. It seems to always land on its feet. So with all this AI shit going on and content creators, and it may seem like music's taking a backseat. That's why I'm in a interesting position, because since I've started releasing my own music, I get suggested a lot of independent music, and a lot of this music is great, man. People are learning how to record and make things sound great, like I'm doing here, and it sounds like great rock and roll records, man, done by independent artists, and I get suggested a lot of it on my streaming services. I listen to YouTube Music a lot. I listen to Apple Music occasionally, because I'm on YouTube Premium. I pay for ad-free stuff so I can listen and watch at work, and not have no commercials, because I don't want to be messing with the phone too much at work, but I do anyway. And so I take in all this music information. That's why I'm like, I want to share it with you guys. But the channel is really about music creation and working to the end of putting out a record, putting out an EP, or putting out a single. That's something that I've been mulling around in my head, is whether or not to do a full-length album, because I just told you that I think everybody's very ADD, and so far all my releases have been singles. There's 11 of them you can go check out. So if you go on any streaming services and type in Thirsty Deer, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Deezer, anywhere you get your music, type in Thirsty Deer, and then type in the song title like Reckless Abandon, or like Zoo, or like Pixel Palm Reader, or Didn't Get No Sleep. There's a lot of my songs up there. All of them are out. 11 songs that you can check out. So check out my music. If you happen to get on here, we're running a little bit shorter on time. I've got about 20 minutes left. But if you get on the stream, do get in the chat. Talk to me, man. Tell me about music. Tell me what music means to you, because that's something that's, scary. If AI replaces music, or, people stop caring as much about music, because if you stop paying people to do music, like, I don't really see how live music's going to stop from actual artists, but, technology's so advanced, and people are already playing the tracks. Like, they'll have Ableton up with all the tracks, drums, alternate guitars, lead, rhythm guitars, bass, and they'll play lead guitar and sing. And so musicians are already struggling, right? And it's just, music used to be held in a lot higher regard. People, rock stars were like athletes. And I think being creative is something to not, take it for granted, because it's hard to do and people have to take time to do it. I take time out of my day to do these things and to make my music, and people do it because it's important and they have something to say, something to express, and music can hit you in a way that words alone can't. So where the lyrics leave off, the music takes it to another place, and where the music leaves off, you can tell the story with the lyrics, and it's just it's important, and we shouldn't take it for granted. But it does always tend to land on its feet. So after all the hair metal of the 1980s, in about 1991, Nirvana hit. A little before that, you had bands like Jane's Addiction and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And in 91, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, on October 16th, began their Blood Sugar Sex Magik tour. So that's a great record. Classics on there like Give It Away. I think Under the Bridge is on that one. So the biggest hits are on that record. I've seen the Chili Peppers. They're a great live band. And the openers for this Chili Peppers tour were Smashing Pumpkins, also a new band, pretty new band, but not as new as the first opener, because there were two openers and then the Chili Peppers, and the first opener was a little band called Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam's another band that I've seen many, many times, 4 times, I think. Saw them twice in the 90s, once in like 2001 or 2, probably something, maybe 2003. Yeah, it was 2003. And then once a couple years ago at Bourbon and Beyond in Louisville. So if you're new to the channel, we're in Louisville, Kentucky, so Nashville isn't too far away. It seems like all the music creators are in Nashville, except Rick Beato, who's my favorite when he's in Atlanta. Rhett Shull's down there by Rick, so that's how Rhett really got started, was Rick Beato. I watched another guy called Billy Hume. It's funny how a lot of these people are connected, you know. But Billy did a lot of great rap records in the 2000s, you know, popular rap records. And he does cool videos, really long live streams, like 6-hour live streams where he actually makes music. That's why I dig his channel, because he makes records on the stream. That's what I do too. You know, I try to do it. You get things like latency when you're trying to record and do a live stream, things that are hard to deal with, but you can still make sounds. I've got the guitar plugged in over here. Maybe we'll pluck around on it, but we're running a little short on time. And I always sign off with another video, like another song in another video, because I start the videos with music that I've made, and I end the videos with music I've made. For one, if I didn't think it sounded right, I wouldn't put them out. You know, I wouldn't play them for you guys. It would just be something I'd do. But when I started the channel out, I wanted it to be like, come on this road of learning to produce music with me. And I've been doing this thing a while, and now the music's sounding right. You know, I like to listen to the music. Like, just playing that track surprises me when I hear how good it sounds, because it's all analog instruments. We're not doing, you know, a lot of sample things, really none, except for some keys things. So I've worked to get all these sounds, and I know how to get them. I have a flow that works for me, and I like to switch it up a lot, because that's the interesting part of it, is trying out new things, trying out different microphones, running things through a compressor and really crushing the shit out of it. All that kind of stuff gives you interesting results, and most of the time the results you get are going to make the song, because they're different. Like sending out of your interface and going through guitar pedals. That's so cool, man. It's what gives your music a flavor that's different. You know, and that's why people should be doing this. You know, it's cool to get gear demos and like gear reviews and stuff like that, but that's like what everything's about, man. And the gear, you know, it can sound different, like, but like with guitar amps, if you have a high gain amp, it's not going to sound a whole lot different from a different high gain amp. Like I have a dual rectifier right here, and it's not miles away from a Soldano or a Marshall Silver Jubilee or something like that. Or like this clean Fender Twin over here. It's not miles away from a Vox. You know, Vox will get a lot crunchier if you crank it up, but or or even the clean channel of this dual rectifier. So it's really what you do with the gear that gives you the different sounds, and the chains you make with the gear, the different things you put in line. But it's what you're saying with the gear. That's what's the most important. I will say, like, things like mic preamps when you're recording. Now the interfaces are pretty good, the mic preamps on most of them. But still, if you want things to sound like records, you need to get some transformers in your signal path. And you can even do it with plugins, but it's a lot more time and effort. And I still think it's not the same. Just going through a stereo pair of something with transformers in it will make your mix sound a lot more like something that was recorded on tape back in the 80s or 70s or 60s or 50s, so it's all things to think about with the gear, but really it's where you're at creatively. And to stay creative, you have to be creative. It's very easy to get in a rut if you're not constantly doing it. And I get in ruts, and when I get in a rut, I work through it. I keep recording and keep making things. Like, a lot of times I'll rewrite lyrics to a song 3 or 4 times before I actually get the lyric like I want it. And then, I still haven't wrote. I struggle most with choruses. I think I've got a pretty good chorus for this new song, but it's just hard. That's what you want. It has to be something you can sing to, or shake your ass to, maybe, or even great, really heavy rock and roll songs. I'm thinking like Stone Temple Pilots. It makes you want to sing to the music. Scott Weiland was great at that. One more piece of historical stuff that I have. Historical events that happened on October 16th in history. CBGB's, the classic punk rock club where, the Ramones played at. Everybody played at. I'm sure the Sex Pistols played there. The New York Dolls. Everybody went through CBGB's back in the 70s. On this day in 2006, CBGB's closed. Very much an end of an era thing. I think if you go up there and check out CBGB's, they probably still have like a gift shop or something. And it could even be reopened now, but it's not the CBGB's it was. So that was kind of the end of an era for like punk rock and new wave and to go along with that, we've also been losing around that time. We started losing a lot of big studios, and I'm just totally enamored with studio stuff. That's why I go through studio microphones and mic preamps and studio gear when I make this, because I want high quality sound on my recordings, because this is a sound YouTube channel. It's about making sound and making music. And so I'm not just going to use the camera on my phone, because that would be a bit hypocritical in my opinion, or lazy at the very least. YouTube apparently isn't going to show this live stream live to anybody. Maybe a bunch of people with a shitload of subscribers all put out videos at this time. I don't know. Usually my live streams, I put them up about 9. I do them about 9 o'clock at night, because I put my son to bed earlier than a little bit before that. It gives me time to set things up, do a couple tests to make sure things are sounding right, and then we go live. This is a channel where I don't do a lot of pre-production for a live stream. I just start, and roll and say what's on my mind, because I can talk about music. Occasionally things get stuck on the tip of my tongue or lost in translation a little bit, but I definitely have a deep music knowledge and a deep desire to make music, so I just get on here and talk about that, man, because like Justin Hawkins and Rick Beato were talking about, music is beginning to feel like it's just for content. And while I know this is content, it's about making music, and I do make music. And I'm gonna play you some music to wrap up this live stream. It's a little bit. We're about 10 minutes short of time, but since nobody's clicking on the stream, I don't know if YouTube's even suggesting it at all. I'm just gonna play you out with about a 3-minute video, and that'll get us close to the time. I wish I had some interaction on the channel. I wish some people clicked on it, but I don't know if they're even seeing it. Usually, a few people click on, sometimes get in the chat. I know people are at work. I was just at work. I just left work. If you don't know, I work at General Electric in Louisville, Kentucky. I make dishwashers all day. I'd rather be home making music, but got to pay the bills. I have my son who lives with me full time. I have him 100% of the time, and we like to do fun shit, especially around Halloween. We like to go to the pumpkin patches, and we just went to Kentucky Kingdom last weekend and rode rides and did the Halloween thing. So I'm excited. This is Friday Eve. We call Thursday Friday Eve around here because we're always looking forward to the weekend and always looking forward to making music. And that's about all I know, you know. So I'm going to pick out a killer rock and roll song that was made right here in this studio because we make rock and roll. Rock and roll music is what we make. It's what we love to make. And we always have something to say with this rock and roll music, too. You know, it's what I'm going through at the time or what I've been through in my life or, you know, what's important to me is what my music's about. So I'm just going to pick out a song here and we're going to roll out with this song. Let's do this one. This is, wait a minute, let's see. This has got some, really, it's got like augmented chords and really dissonant, a little bit of dissonant parts in it. The one thing, well, we'll just play the video. This is called Feels the Same. So if you go onto your streaming service of choice, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, wherever you go to get your music, because it's everywhere. If you go in there and you type Thirsty Deer and you type Feels the Same, this is what you'll get. And I'm going to show you the video with it. I always make a tracking video or do something cool with the songs because people like visual references as well. But here's the song, Feels the Same. It's been a long time since I played this one. This one is probably coming up on a year old, but I dig this one. So here we go.